Hey kids! Did you know that the idea of an ethno-state is completely untenable in reality without resolving to genocide? And even if you manage to jump that hurdle, it would still suck for everybody anyway? Because Studio Trigger does. Yo, I'm the one and only true Eminem, here with another trademark Weeb Revolution hot take for y'all. Close them furry porn tabs, because you will be getting your full dose of ooh right here. Or, actually, don't close them! I ain't telling you how to live your life, go nuts tiger. And, in the meantime, I'm gonna tell you why being a mixed blood mongrel is kind of awesome actually. There are a few studios that are as consistent in creating good anime as Trigger. I don't really watch that much anime anymore. They still didn't realize my ruse. Please send the extraction unit. But whenever a new Trigger show comes out, my ears perk up above the ground, rousing me from my death slumber. Trigger is well known for their fluid, almost cartoonish animation style, weird-ass plots, colorful characters, and this Chunibyo-style moral heart that manifests as an overwhelming need to row fight the power. And also aliens. It's always gonna be aliens, for some reason. However, Trigger is also almost eerily consistent when it comes to producing revolutionary and anti-fascist content. Whenever I watch a Trigger show, I know they got me. I know that 12 episodes in, there won't be a dumb reveal where the clear fascists turn out to kind of have a point actually. I can rest assured that whatever plucky protagonist is driving the show this time, they'll just punch the fascist in the climax, and that will briefly turn me into a squirming ball of happy noises. Case in point, BNA, or Brand New Animal, Trigger's foray into satisfying the vibrant furry demand awakened by Beastars. Before I firmly grab this particular bull by its balls though, spoiler warning. It is impossible to talk about the anti-fascist message of BNA without spoiling the story, because for some brilliant reason, Trigger decided to reveal that that's actually a theme in literally the last episode. Thanks guys, that's nice. The premise behind BNA is incredibly simple. Beastfolk live among humankind and have done so forever. Don't worry about it, there is a lot of hand-waving involved. Beastfolk are minority-coded, and they're discriminated against. But not in like a fun, liberal way, where the brainlets can pretend everything is fine. In a very not fun way, where there are literal murder gangs roaming the cities and conducting impromptu lynchings. The Beastfolk community was given a city-sized area called Anima City, which is terrible branding, but whatever, to create their own ethno-state, where they can live in peace inside Japan's borders. Huh. That's interesting. I could swear there's like a one-to-one real-life comparison of sorts. That's weird. Our protagonist, a girl named Michiro, becomes a beast person seemingly out of nowhere one day, and in order to not be literally murdered, travels to Anima City. There, she meets a good boy named Shiro Ogami, the self-proclaimed protector of all beastfolk, gets embroiled in politics, joins a baseball team and has an entire Mighty Ducks arc in the span of a single episode, finds a friend whom she thought dead, and in general has a lot of fun, wacky adventures. Things start to escalate when the villain of the show, Alan Silvasta, arrives in Anima City and starts to plot something vaguely nefarious. But the show will not tell you what, or why, until the very last second, and it will frequently pivot to suggest that maybe he's good actually, even though we all know better because he's an Aryan-looking motherfucker in a Trigger show. Of fucking course he's the bad guy, are you stupid? The core theme of BNA is finding that you're different, being hated by society because of it, and trying to see things from another person's perspective as a result. Michiro isn't a normal beast person. She becomes one and spends the majority of the show trying to understand the people she's unfamiliar with, mostly through interacting with the good boy Shiro. This of course nicely fits into a discussion about systemic racism, but can also be examined with a queer theory lens. I can tell you as a bisexual man that the metaphor of finding one day that you're different, trying to fight it, and eventually accepting yourself by interacting with others who went through the same ordeal is not lost on me. So this is all good, nice stuff, very PG-13, that we can all just get behind, right? We're not here to talk about that stuff. We are here to talk about how the show becomes a full-on anti-Israel propaganda, and I love that. Okay. Let's step back a little bit. In BNA, the beastfolk suffer from some kind of a genetic condition that can make them go ballistic if they're too stressed out. In humans, that would just be considered having a bad case of the Mondays, but for beastfolk, it's given a scientific name, the Nirvasil syndrome. I don't have to tell you, but again, the metaphor is laid pretty thick. The sciencey bros identifying a completely normal part of human behavior, branding with a sciencey name, and trying to imply that that's somehow a uniquely racial trait is just, well, it's something that fascists do. The villain Aryan dude with the whitest name imaginable is trying to cause a citywide outbreak, basically race-baiting the beastfolk into a massive riot so he can indiscriminately apply his concoction that cures the beastfolk and turns them into regular humans. In this way, he ostensibly aims to finally solve the beastfolk problem. Yes, he literally phrases it that way. And also, beastfolk are shown to have been experimented on in Nazi concentration camps. Holy shit, this isn't even a metaphor anymore, it's just being the thing. Nirvasil syndrome apparently activates when there's a lot of beastfolk cramped together in one place, as their territorial instincts override their cognitive capabilities. Although, it bears mentioning, this theory is put forward by the resident fascist of the story, so the veracity of it should be questioned. It sounds reasonable, given our inclination to presuppose things about the beastfolk, but when you start asking questions, it breaks down. Animosity has existed for 20 years now, and Sylvester has to seriously go out of his way to instigate the riot, so it seems less like a biological fact about the beastfolk, and more like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, of course if you put a lot of oppressed people in a small space with subpar living conditions, they're gonna get stressed out. I could have told you that for free. Calling it a syndrome really doesn't change anything. It's also never made clear, but it is implied that Sylvester and his goons had to use some form of biological warfare to worsen the syndrome. So again, the idea that beastfolk are just hardwired to go apeshit is disputable. And you'd think that he's just doing it because he's a fascist, right? I mean, yes, but here's the twist. He's actually a beast person too. A special kind of beast person, a pureblood scion of an ancient family line. The reason he's trying to destroy the city and turn the beastfolk into regular humans is because he considers the hybrid beastfolk impure. He wants to return to the good old days when the beastfolk controlled humanity from the shadows, and of course what he actually means by that is an imagined prelapsarian era when a small fraction of beastfolk enjoyed a position of power and privilege in society, while all the others were discriminated against. You know, because he's a fascist. Did I make that one clear yet? Sylvester claims that the pure beastfolk are immune to the Nirvasil syndrome. He thinks that it is a result of beastfolk interbreeding with each other for generations, leading to a genetic decline of sorts. Of course, he's wrong. As we find out during the final confrontation between him and Shiro, he's just as susceptible to Nirvasil syndrome as anybody else, because of course he is. That was a dumb theory made up by a fascist to justify a genocidal ideology. But here is a fun fact. You know who actually is immune to the syndrome? Michiro. The final kicker here is that Michiro's DNA has special healing properties and can stabilize the people overtaken with Nirvasil syndrome. And why? Because she's a genetic freak. Her transformation is a result of a mix-up caused by Sylvester, where she was transfused with special beastfolk blood. She's the ultimate beastfolk hybrid, essentially containing the genetic markers of all beastfolk breeds. The funny thing is that when Sylvester hears about this, his response is, "Oh, that's interesting. Didn't see that one coming. Oh well, time to go back to doing fascism," and goes ahead with his plan anyway. Because, of course he does. It was never actually about helping beastfolk or making society a little better for anybody, except himself, and even then by proxy, by making the lives of everybody else more miserable. He doesn't even consider that this might be a solution. The thought that Michiro's impure blood could solve anything isn't even a possibility in his mind. So let's break down exactly what happened here. A discriminated against ethnic and religious minority has faced a veritable genocide. They are then given a state inside the borders of a sovereign nation by unjustified political fiat, which is supposed to be only for them and nobody else. That state, as you can imagine, has some serious issues, and the friction between the ethnic groups hasn't been amended in any way. If anything, it was exasperated. And then a blood purity obsessed nitwit with a lot of money and power comes along and decides that even this is not pure enough for him. What I'm saying is, animosity is Israel, and the problems it's facing as a nation are directly caused by its ethnocentric nature. Much has already been said about the exclusionary nature of fascist ideologies. During the time of their relative decline, they broadened the scope of what counts as pure expression of their given ethnicity, like how the Irish became white, but are very quick to exclude the same groups one by one as soon as the ideologies achieve a modicum of influence, like how the Irish are no longer considered white. Again! Importantly, no amount of racial purity is ever going to satisfy a fascist because the idea itself is vacuous. It's a means of building your identity by contrasting it with that which you are not. You can be as sure as day that when there are two fascists left on the planet, they'll both consider each other impure. BNA acknowledges this reality fully. In the end, the mayor of Animicity realizes that building a state just for the beast folk was a mistake. As people, as a community connected by traditions, a religion and blood ties, they have the right to be who they are. Forcing them to become human would be abhorrent. But trying to seclude themselves from other groups is going to destroy them, and that destruction may not even come from without, but from within. Animicity is not disbanded, because it can't be. Doing that would be unfair to its citizens, but it becomes better by including humans inside of its walls. The solution to the problem caused by blood purity driven ideology isn't more purity, it's less purity. This is as true for Israel as it is for any other hypothetical ethno-state. The Jewish community has the right to be Jewish, but an obsession with cultural hegemony spells as much of an impending disaster for it as it does for the fictional Animicity. The bonds we create ourselves transcend blood, and there is nothing intrinsic about ethnic purity that would make it superior to being a hybrid. In fact, nature favors diversity. The road to progress is spelled out in synthesis, not in opposition. Fascism only looks imposing when you try to engage it on its own terms, when you acknowledge its bullshit false scientific ideas and give in to comfortably sounding half-truths. If you don't let it even speak its nonsense, it will crawl under a rock and quietly whimper about women destroying video games, or soy milk, or transgender bathrooms, or any number of silly things, just to get that tiny bit of a toehold back. And the moment it does, it will suggest a genocide, it will be laughed at, and will crawl back again. And that's how, perhaps not intentionally, though I know better, Trigger produced a piece of anti-Israeli propaganda that can be viewed on Netflix. With dubbing. What a time to be alive, eh? I guess that's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching.